Hello everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, Patreon, Spotify, wherever guys. Now even on Amazon Music. That's right, that's where I've been listening to some of my podcasts lately. You can contact Dayspring Discussions on the Facebook group, Twitter account, and dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this rainy and gloomy day in Austin, Texas, guys. I was going to finish putting up my outside Christmas decorations today, but Mother Nature seemed to have other plans for me, and that's okay, because that means I can sit down and talk a little Star Wars Mandalorian goodness, but I cannot talk about the goodness without the mistress of Mandalore herself, Miss Lisa Locke McGahee.
Hello.
All right, guys. So, if you have never listened to Dayspring Discussions before, here's how it goes, guys. You can head on over to the Facebook group and Twitter account and see all the news stories in the world of geekdom that have been happening. I post stuff. Members post stuff, we discuss stuff there, and whenever there's something real juicy that comes up that I feel like I have a passion to talk about, I hop on to the airwaves here and share my opinion. You guys, of course, fire back with your own opinion, and like I said, we discuss stuff. So, something juicy that came up yesterday, as most of you know, there was a new episode of The Mandalorian that came out on Disney Plus yesterday, and it was quite delightful and quite debatable in my eyes. So that's what Lisa and I are going to do. We're going to sit here, we're going to talk some Mandalorian Chapter 13, The Jedi. So let's have a little backstory first, okay? For those of you who don't know, this is going to be a spoilers review, okay? So if you have not watched the episode and you don't want to know stuff about the episode, you want to pause, you want to watch the episode, and then come back and listen to us, because we're not holding anything back, guys. Nothing's going to be held back here. Full spoilers. We're going to go into some theories and stuff like that. So, obviously, the big thing about yesterday's episode was the live-action appearance of fan favorite Ahsoka Tano. So, again, just a little backstory. The character first appeared in 2008 in the Star Wars Clone Wars animated movie, and really started out with almost Jar Jar level of hate of the character. But as the Clone Wars progressed, she popped up in Rebels and other things, has become really a fan favorite character in the inner Star Wars circles, and this is her first appearance in live action, played by Rosario Dawson. Dawson kind of been campaigning for this for several years now, and I guess I would say that it's nice to see her get the role, because she's a fine actress, but at the same time I'm not really a fan of actor and actresses campaigning for roles. In any event, she popped up, and there was other stuff that happened too. So before I start rambling too much, Lisa, give me just your general thoughts on the episode.
Overall, it was good. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite episode of The Mandalorian, but I liked it.
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about it, obviously, because you are the much bigger Ahsoka Tano fan than I am. Mm-hmm. Your office is decorated in Ahsoka Tano. You have a Ahsoka Tano tattoo, even. Okay. So, first up, let's start simple. How did you feel about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano?
I think she did a fine job. I think for not being Ashley Eckstein, for being the wrong voice, I think she did a decent job. I think she, in terms of her mannerisms, her tone, the way she communicated, I definitely think she sounded like Ahsoka. I think she did a great job.
Yeah, I think, in this, given the time frame, the fact that, this is Ahsoka post-Rebels, after the epilogue, and supposed to be the wise Ahsoka, almost like an Obi-Wan, episode 4 kind of character, not snips like she has been.
No, I think she definitely had a very Rebels Ahsoka vibe.
But like a wiser, older, gone through some shit, kind of
how she was in Rebels. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, she's even more, gone through more stuff since then.
Right, but I think the vibe she gave off was very Rebels Ahsoka, which I thought was fine.
I agree. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So the episode itself, of course, it very much followed what we've been seeing in The Mandalorian this season. Now, we usually wait till the end of the season to talk about, the full season of Mandalorian, but we had to talk about this episode again because it was such, I think, a big episode for Star Wars fans. And I feel like you and I both have a lot to say about it. But with this, it seems like this whole season has just been, at the end of last season, Mando or Djarin. Yes, that's how you say it. He got his quest. He had to return the child, Baby Yoda, whatever you want to call him. Grogu now, of course, to his people, the Jedi. And that's kind of what it's been where, Mando has been on this quest. In every episode this season, he's met someone who, has given him a little more information. He has to trade that information to help them with something. And then he moves on to, the next place, wherever the information leads him. And the one thing I like is you do get little flares of certain characters, especially characters from Star Wars lore, like Cobb Vanth, Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, these people from the mythology, especially characters that were in, animated or even the books that were people like, oh, I like that character. I'm like, great, you should check out this animated series, or here, you can read this book, just to, the more people see these characters, more they want to dive more into, the Star Wars myth. If you're more a casual fan, guess what? Disney Plus has all of Clone Wars and all of Rebels. So get caught up on the adventures of Ahsoka Tano right then and there.
So here's the thing, though, and I wanted to, because I know, you have been kind of listening to some of the other people talking about this episode.
Yes.
Where I have just been hearing over your shoulder because they annoy me when they're talking about this stuff, and largely because kind of what you just said. This season has been, dusting in some characters from, like you said, Star Wars lore, Star Wars history, other Star Wars things, different properties or whatever. But some people seem to think that for the casual fan who maybe is just getting on board with Mandalorian, that throwing these characters in is confusing to them. Where I don't feel like that at all because of the way they've been sprinkling them in.
I like the way they presented, yes.
Right, like you don't have to know anything about Bo-Katan's history. She's in the episode. People who know who she is are going to know all that history. She tells you all you need to know, that she is of the real Mandalore. That episode explains who she is well enough for people who don't know the backstory to make people not be confused. But people who do know the backstory get more out of the scene.
Yeah.
Same thing, like you said, with Cobb Vanth. If you don't know who he is, it doesn't matter that you don't know who he is when you watch that episode. But if you do know who he is, it just adds to the episode for you. But it doesn't matter. People who had no idea who that character was, that episode is not less worthy. It doesn't mean less. You don't need to know. And even in this episode, if you don't know who Ahsoka was, all you need to know about her for this episode is that she was a Jedi. Because that's all that you need to know for this episode. Right? Like, there is nothing else that if you watch this episode not knowing who she was, it doesn't matter. Her history with Anakin is irrelevant to this episode. Her history with leaving the Jedi Temple is irrelevant to this episode. There is nothing about her history that you need to know to enjoy the episode. Because the only reason he went to her is because she is a Jedi.
Well, technically.
Whatever. He needed to take Baby Yoda, Grogu, to a Force user. And she was the one that he was directed to. So all you need to know is that she obviously, with her lightsabers and stuff, has Force abilities, or whatever. That's all you need to know. So the fact that she has a history doesn't matter in this episode. So, like, people who are saying that it may be taking away for the casual fan, I don't understand that, because there is nothing. I think that Jon Favreau is doing a great job making sure that all these Easter eggs add to the show for us, Jedi Master Star Wars fans, but that the Padawan Star Wars fans out there are not gonna be like, I don't understand what's going on. Yeah. Like, I don't understand people who are saying that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And I think, of course, Jon Favreau, great director, knows how to tell a really good story. But I think, one thing that, with this too, is you have someone like Jon Favreau who is, I wouldn't say, he's been in Clone Wars as a voice, so he knows, Star Wars, work with George Lucas. But, Dave Filoni, where Dave Filoni is, the apprentice of George Lucas and has a wealth of knowledge of all things Star Wars and deeper meanings and all this other thing. And I think it's the combination of the both of them where, maybe Filoni might, have the knowledge, but Favreau being, more of a casual fan, I guess, to be like, okay, that sounds great, and I want to put that in there, but how do we, not go too deep? Mm-hmm. And I think it's the combination of the two of them, both being the executive producers on the show and working together, that kind of gives you that good middle ground where you can add those little sprinkles of, Star Wars lore that the hardcore fans are going to really enjoy and appreciate, but still make it accessible for the more casual fans.
Yeah. I mean, I would really like, if anybody is listening to this, I feel like people who are probably are like us, maybe not totally us level Star Wars fans, but somewhere up there. If you know somebody who watches The Mandalorian, but has never maybe ever watched other Star Wars properties, or who doesn't know much, I would like for you please to ask them if it mattered to them that they did not know Ahsoka's history. Like, do they care? Did it distract them from the episode that they didn't know who this Jedi was? Because I don't understand people who are saying that they felt like it distracted. Because I just don't understand that. And so I'm just curious. Maybe there are casual Star Wars fans out there who, when Ahsoka came on screen, they were like, I don't know who she is. I don't understand what's going on because I don't know who she is. Like, I mean, what Jedi were they supposed to put in there that people know? They're all freaking dead.
That's true. They had to find a Jedi. I mean, I think Ahsoka would be, probably the most likely unless they wanted to introduce a completely new character.
Right, which would have been, for the casual fan, the same thing.
Yeah,
introducing a brand new character versus Ahsoka, to a casual fan, they're all new characters.
Yeah, and one thing, I've said too is, with, when they introduced the Darksaber back at the end of season 1, I mean, you throw that in there, people are like, what? What is that? Watch Clone Wars and Rebels. Who's Bo-Katan? She's pretty cool. Watch Clone Wars and Rebels. Ahsoka Tano, watch Clone Wars and Rebels. Watch these other shows. That's what they're trying to get you to do. They're trying to watch these other shows that, we appreciate because, we watched them. And maybe if you go back and learn a deeper meaning, because then if you go back again and you watch, Clone Wars and Rebels and then rewatch this episode, you're going to have a much deeper appreciation for Ahsoka, where she's been, what she's been through, and you're going to get more out of it, much like we do when we see, these things.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. This is another thing I don't get, where people say, oh, it's going to be confusing for people. When you originally back when the prequels came out, let's say, when the movies were on, every time they introduced a new Jedi, were people confused? I mean, did you have to stop and say, well, I don't know, people who don't know who Star Wars, those people on the Jedi Order
Council,
the council, that one, I don't know his name. I'm so distracted now. I just don't get it. That's what properties do. They introduce new characters, and sure, in this case, say half the people watching knew who she was, the other half didn't. You don't have to know who she was to like this episode. And if you do know who she was, you either, right away, a lot of people thought it was amazing. Me, I love Ahsoka, so I'm still wrapping my head around it. But just because it's different for me, seeing her, it's different for everybody, seeing her in real, as a real person.
And that's one thing, I was I didn't want to get any spoilers yesterday before I watched the episode, because, my first thing is, how she looks.
Right, and that was honestly, I had more issue with the look.
Yes, me too.
Than with the way she acted. I think the acting was great. Even the way that they had her fighting, I thought was amazing. Because if you think about it, she's not necessarily, she's not going to be fighting the same exact way that, teenage Padawan Ahsoka did. She's an adult, more than an adult now. She's really 50 probably, supposed to be? 40s?
Yeah. She's probably older than that. Well, no. She's a little younger. She's probably 40s.
She's probably supposed to be in 40s. Her 40s.
Yeah.
And she's obviously within the Star Wars, they have a little bit more flexibility with how people age because they're all different species.
Age different.
She's a Togruta. I don't know how Togrutas age.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit more play.
Although
I think Rosario Dawson probably is in her 40s.
I think she's in her 40s, yeah.
Okay.
40s or late 30s.
I think she's probably close in age to me.
Yeah.
But I had much more problem with the look than I did with the action. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job making her orange. I thought her facial markings were done very well. Like we already talked about. The part that I didn't like was her montrals and the way her like the little spikes on top are supposed to stick up. Her things definitely should have been longer. But like you said, they explained that in just taking an animated character and making it real life, there were some things that just logistically couldn't work in a fighting sequence.
Yes.
And it makes sense. But it did distract me.
When I first saw her, it distracted me quite a bit, actually.
Where the casual fan wouldn't have been distracted by that because they don't know what she's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So they were just like, oh, look at that cool character with those white and blue head things, But yeah, I thought the acting was good, and anyway, I've gone on a very long sidebar here, but
yeah, exactly. So the episode itself, let's go back and go through some kind of plot things. So Mando arrives on Corvus looking for Ahsoka because he was sent by Bo-Katan, and right away we can tell that something's not right on a Corvus. Of course, this. What is it, magistrate Morgan Elsbeth has taken over, and looks like she's doing what she did for a while, which is basically building stuff for Imperial Army. Now I thought we were going to get maybe a clue that she was still doing that before possibly the First Order. They didn't really give anything clue about that, but that's kind of where mine went when they talked about how she was still making stuff for the Imperials. Is what I thought about.
It said that the fleet. She helped with the fleet.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if she's still making stuff, who's she making it for? And I thought the First Order.
Well, the Empire still exists.
Yeah, they do, but they're morphing into the First Order at this point.
Right, but, the Empire does still... Mando talks about it all the time. There are still people there wearing Imperial uniforms, and the Empire does still exist.
Exactly, yes, they're still around.
And if Thrawn is her master... It probably is still the Empire because he was working for the Empire, not the First Order. Yeah. I think it's not. I don't think this is about the First Order. I think this is still about the Empire. Mm-hmm. This is still the factions of the Empire that are left. Yet. Yeah, I don't think that this is the First Order. I think it is.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so he gets into town. He's he sees what's going on, and he gets offered a Beskar spear in order to hunt down Ahsoka, when really he does. He wants the spear, obviously, because it's Beskar, but really his main goal, you could tell, was just to find the location of Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. And then he meets up with Ahsoka. And I love from the first minute or whatever, she jumps in and attacks him a little bit, and within 10 seconds, he's like, I don't want to fight. Yeah. Because I think you could tell right away he ain't gonna win that fight.
Well, he didn't need to fight her anyway.
Yeah, he didn't need. Yeah.
That was the whole goal, was to stop the fight, to let her know that he's here for another purpose, not to fight.
Exactly, too. And then, of course, Ahsoka, I love it. We're like, I'm here to talk. And she's like, I hope it's about him.
Yeah, because she could totally sense it.
Yeah, she could totally sense him. And obviously, mini Yoda. So she's like, what's up? Mm-hmm. And so here's, where we get more about Baby Yoda.
This is the part that I was super interested in when they started, because I've been saying, I know you're not a huge fan of Baby Yoda, where I have been super intrigued by him from the beginning. Well, and largely because, as we've talked about many, many times, the part of Star Wars that I really love, and that most people are is the Jedi factor. And so every time there are Star Wars properties that lead farther and farther away from Jedi stuff, like Mandalorians are cool, sure. But I want to see them interacting with Jedi. Right. It's the Jedi. That's the part of Star Wars that makes it Star Wars. Otherwise, it's just any.
It's like any other sci-fi. Culture. Yeah, right. It gets Firefly.
Right, exactly. Like the Jedi is what makes Star Wars Star Wars.
Which Firefly is good, but still.
Exactly. But so. That's what, from the beginning, that's what I've wanted to know more about. I want to know more about Baby Yoda. Who is the child? Where has he been? Where did he come from? What is going on? In this, we finally get a little bit of Grogu's history, where you find out that he was in the Jedi Temple. He had, somebody saved him when everything went down. From the Empire. Somebody from the Empire saved him to keep him, to be keeping him like a guinea pig.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was kind of muddied a little bit, because someone in the temple hid him I'm assuming when the troopers came to attack the temple, he got hidden somewhere, and then did that same person then take him out, or was it someone different that took him out of the temple?
It couldn't have been the Jedi that saved him, because he said after that all he knew was darkness. He doesn't because the Empire has had him.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I mean, well, the Empire hasn't had him. The Empire was looking for him at the beginning of the series. It was like some kind of bounty hunters or some kind of mercenaries that were really
like maybe just somebody just hid him in the temple.
I mean, obviously,
and then like later when people went back and just kind of pillaged the temple, maybe they found him hiding in there.
Yeah, I mean something like that, or like I said, maybe some Jedi got him out. Like, because like my first thought, and I think a lot of people's thoughts, where you think about, okay, it was somebody in the temple that hid him to start off with. Obviously, it wasn't like a Yoda or an Obi-Wan, because they weren't there when the temple was hid.
I would imagine it was probably another one of the younglings.
Well, I was thinking younglings or the librarian, Jocasta Nu.
Why would it be her?
Because, she was there. She survived. We know she survived as well. So from there, just thinking of characters that we know is really what comes down to.
I don't think it's somebody who survived, though, because I feel like then they would have gone back to get him.
Possibly. That's true.
That's so. My guess was when all the younglings were like, something is happening. Obviously, he couldn't fend for himself yet. Mm-hmm. So I think they just hid him away, being that he was basically a baby.
Okay, so that kind of bothers me a little bit too. Is like, okay, yes, he's a species we know from Yoda that lives, 900 years, if that, or whatever. He's 50 years old, so you could think in that terms. He's probably age like 5, 6, something like that, maybe. In terms of his species or whatever.
Do you want me to actually do the math?
No, I don't want to do the math. I just want to roll over it and keep going here. It's about, he really, he still really can't talk. He acts like a baby.
We don't know how their species does stuff,
does that mean he's eventually going to jump ahead? Because, coming up we have the High Republic book series where we're going to see like a 200-year-old Yoda, and, looks like he can swing a lightsaber and use the Force pretty well. And that's going from 50 to 200, jumping 5-10 years, maybe species-wise. It seems like, they're in terms of the species, he should be more developed than a baby type.
I mean, let's see. Say that Yoda's species lives 1,000 years. Say that 1,000 years for them is 100 years for us.
Okay.
Right? That would have made him like 90-year-old when he died. So if that was the case, then if 1,000 years for them is really like 100 years for us, so then if he was 50, say, then he's really like
10 years old.
No. So he's really like 5.
Yeah, that's what I said. 5.
4-ish,
I said
guess.
5 to 6.
But you have to also think Yoda never. Maybe he is speaking. Maybe he's speaking in some other language.
But he's cooey and cawing. He's not even trying to say anything.
I don't know.
Actually,
maybe maybe their verbal skills come later. Look at how Yoda talked.
Yeah,
whatever. Don't try to reason it out. It's a different.
I am trying to reason it out because it's like they're trying to stunt this kid just for the cuteness factor.
No, I don't think
they're
that's.
They're not letting the child should not be this underdeveloped in this world.
You don't know that, Sean.
I don't
you
know
don't
that.
know the way that the species is. I mean, it could be that's what they're doing.
You're trying to rationalize it now too, see?
No. Yeah, I'm trying to say it's their decision. They are the creators of this creature, of this show.
Mm-hmm. And I'm saying they're stunning the development of this creature just so they can sell more toys.
I don't think that that's the case. They could have just made him younger then.
Yeah, that would have been good
so
too.
The fact that they are making him 50, it's exactly what they need it to be. It's their show,
I'm not too worried about it. I'm just trying to make conversation at this point. So, but anyway, so here was the fact that I actually did like though. When we learned his name and Ahsoka was telling Mando about his history, okay? So the child was, was hidden away during the Clone Wars because there was an attack and found by someone that tried to essentially keep him safe. Sound familiar? Exactly like Mando. The thing about this season 2 is, each episode you can see the relationship between the two of them.
The parallels.
Yeah, the parallels, their relationship growing stronger. And of course, we already know there's no way that, Baby Yoda Grogu, whatever we call it. Are we going to call it Grogu, or people are still going to call it Baby Yoda?
I'm going to call him Grogu.
Okay, well, whatever. Grogu, we do know that this little thing is never leaving the show, of course.
No, he's going to stay with Mando.
Exactly.
Mando is obviously the first person that has shown him any kind of kindness in a long time.
I think so too, yeah.
So, there's no other explanation for why he's so attached to him. It's... And, like she said, he's been hiding. He's been trying to hide his Force powers. Like all the Jedi did when they first went.
Yeah,
the ones that did survive when they went into hiding, they all tried to hide their Force.
Yes, they did, yeah. Kanan or
powers.
Cal, yeah, they all did.
Yeah, because that was what protected them. And we don't know enough about who had him, where he's been all these years. No. But no matter, I think it's fairly obvious that wherever he wasn't being well treated. And he was trying to hide his powers. Mm-hmm. So, coming to Mando saved him from some people who maybe weren't treating him well, and then has been continuing to save him and care for him this time. It's probably, think about this poor little kid. All these years, nobody has shown him any kind of kindness. Uh-huh. And now, Mando has for a while now. I'm not sure what the timeline of the show actually is, but I think it's been a fairly decent amount of time.
Yeah.
He definitely looks at Mando like a father figure now. It's like his parental... Yeah. He doesn't want to leave him, and Mando obviously cares about him.
Mando doesn't want to give him up anyway, I think. Like I said, their relationship is, more and more developed, and, he does care for the child, too. Mm-hmm. So... with that. So, okay. So then, Ahsoka tests the child, and I thought it was a really great scene. Of course, they set up with the little metal ball.
I know, as soon as he wouldn't do that, I'm like, he's going to get that ball out.
Yeah, he's going to get the metal ball out, of course, because that's something that he's been obsessed with since, the very first...
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, a long time, for a while now, too. So, we go with that. But then... I love where, there was, Ahsoka talked about, before that, a couple of minutes before that, talked about how afraid Grogu is. And, because of that, she doesn't feel it's the best thing to train him and remove him from the only really attachment that he knows, which is Mando.
Well, it's not about removing him from the attachment. It's a fact that he has that attachment. Yeah. It's the same trouble that you had with Anakin and whatever.
That had the little hint, of course, in there.
Yeah, it's not because she doesn't want to take him away from him, per se, but just because he is attached to him now. We're running into this, and that's obviously, anybody who knows Ahsoka's past can tell immediately that's what she's thinking about.
Yeah. And she hints at it, she's like, it can, lead astray or whatever, even the best of us, which of course, if you know Ahsoka's history, she's talking about Anakin, of course. So, so with that, I love that kind of little part there. And then she kind of later on sends him to another Jedi, but we'll talk...
To the temple.
To the temple. We'll talk about that in a minute. But of course, obviously, we knew they were going to team up and take on Morgan Elsbeth and her crew. We knew that was kind of coming. How do you feel about the whole attack on the fortress?
I thought it was cool. I thought it was super cool how they did that.
Yeah,
I really liked that scene.
I like, Ahsoka, obviously, we knew she could take out these guys. Like, we knew, like, when you look at them, we knew she could totally handle herself against these, clunky, stormtrooper-ish type guys.
But then it wasn't just about getting through them. She had to get to...
Morgan.
What did they call her? The
magistrate.
The magistrate or whatever. Yeah. So that's why I thought it was cool how they worked together...
Exactly. Well, because, she was infiltrating, and then she had her priorities to get to Elsbeth. But, of course, like you said, before they went, she's like, we have to free the prisoners. And that was kind of Mando's thing where she was going to, get to take out the guards and get to Morgan, and then he was going to fly in and, save the prisoners is what it came down to. And I love the appearance by sci-fi alumni Michael Biehn. For those you don't know, he was in Terminator. He was in Aliens. He was also in Tombstone as well. And the little catchphrase, because he was the guy that at the end challenged Kurt Russell's character Wyatt to the showdown. And of course, Val Kilmer showed up and killed him instead. And he's in this episode, Michael Biehn's like, my quarrel's not with you, which is exactly what he said to Val Kilmer in Tombstone. So there's your little Easter egg for that. But Michael Biehn, like I said, a well-known actor in the sci-fi and fantasy realm. So it was nice to see his little cameo in there. And again, something I like about this series is having those little, cameos by, people that, you see in other stuff. just come in and pop up and be like, hey.
Because everybody wants to be in Star Wars.
Of course, who doesn't? If someone, it's like, I'm sure Favreau and Filoni are like, who do we want for this role? Well, let's choose this person. Who's going to say no? Who's going to say no to being in Star Wars?
Yeah.
Is what it is. All right, so the Ahsoka Elsbeth fight. That, when they first walked in there, it was very samurai-like, and I was getting Kill Bill kind of motifs, but of course that is an homage to the old, samurai movies, so of course that's where the parallels go with that. How did you feel about that fight?
I thought, and we talked about this earlier, but, one of the things, when I first started watching the fight, I was like, this is really stupid. Like, why in the world is this person, like, is Ahsoka even pretending this woman is any kind of contest? Like, when it first started, and it was going on longer than I thought, and I'm like, what the hell? But then it all, at the end, when Ahsoka asks, when she defeats her, and then she says, who is your master? Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? From that point on, I was like, oh, okay, that totally makes sense now, because that if Thrawn is her master, then Thrawn has taught her everything she needs to know, basically, to defeat different people. So then I was like, okay, the fight makes sense now. But then looking back at the fight, I was like, okay, that was a super cool fight. Yeah, okay. Except now I have so many more questions.
Yeah, okay, so so this character, Morgan Elsbeth, was created for the show, so she's not in any other things. Her backstory, like I said, is that, she was, her people were massacred during the Clone Wars, and she went on to build stuff for the Imperial Navy, and that's kind of the backstory we got on her. I'm sure a character like this we'll see in other stuff, especially if she's attached to Thrawn. I'm sure she'll go from here and be in much other things. So with her, not too much to talk about as far as that character. So let's just jump right into really yes, we knew Ahsoka was going to be in the episode. There wasn't really a big reveal about that. The biggest reveal, I know, as soon as she said, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? You and I just looked at each other.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, so where is Ezra then?
Exactly. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, so as we know, the epilogue of Rebels, when Ahsoka and Sabine go off to try to find Ezra, who is with Thrawn in the unknown regions. They go off, and that's right after. I think it's right after the Rebels officially won, like after Battle of Jakku, because I think it's like a year afterwards. So it's officially after the Battle of Jakku, and the Rebels have officially beat the Empire.
Oh, didn't we say we looked it up and it was 5 years?
No, so when I saw, but when you do the math, because it's because if you go from A New Hope to Empire, which is 3 years, and then A New Hope.
You mean Empire?
Empire to Return of the Jedi is less than a year. And then it's like, and so if you go 5 years, the epilogue, you're looking about that year after Return of the Jedi, which I would equate to the Battle of Jakku.
Oh, okay.
Right, so yeah, it's right after. I think it's right after the Rebels said they officially won. Sabine is probably like, okay, the job's done.
Let's go.
Now I got to go, do what Ezra wanted me to do and go find him. Is really what it was.
And then this is 5 years after that.
So this is about 4 years. The Mandalorian, the series starts about 4 years. So we'll say 5 years after that.
So at this point, then, it was about 5 years ago that Ahsoka
and Sabine went
to try to find Ezra and Thrawn.
Yes.
So now we are finding out that at some point, who knows when, Thrawn is this person's master, which means either he has surfaced and he is not with Ezra and has been training this woman, or what? Just what? I am so confused.
Exactly, he's back from somehow he came back from the unknown regions along the way and became this woman's master or whatever. Theoretically, exactly. So again, this is all after the. I mean, honestly, it's about I think I don't want, and I think I talked about this, and I don't want the search for Ezra / Thrawn to be live action. If they're setting this up for where Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, is looking for Thrawn to try to find Ezra, I don't want that. I want, that journey started in animated. I think it deserves to stay animated. But again, that's my own personal preference.
Yeah, but I also had that personal preference about Ahsoka, and here she is.
Yes, that is. Well, that's what it is too. And I think this is what happens after that story. My problem is I don't want to hear the second part of that story before I get the first part, I want to know what happened to Thrawn and Ezra in the outer, the unknown regions. If Ahsoka and Sabine actually found them, and then tell me this story where it looks like, Ahsoka's hunting down Thrawn for some other reason. Hopefully, I feel like it's one of those things where I feel like where we left Ezra at the end of Rebels 2, he was the one that caught Thrawn up in this plan. So where I don't think Ezra will be at this part of his life the type of character that would be easily held captive by Thrawn. It's not like, I don't think Ahsoka is trying to get to Thrawn because he has Ezra.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, so then why does she want Thrawn?
That's what I'm saying. I feel that was the one thing I don't like about this episode is the way it ended with that. Because it opens too many... There's too many questions now that don't seem relevant to this show.
The gaps, it's the gaps that get me. It's like, it's like, and I knew it. I knew before we even saw this episode, that was getting be my question. I was not going to be satisfied because either they were going to completely skip over where's Ezra, or they were going to sidetrack it and give us something else, which is what they did, and be like, we don't care. We're just going to name drop Thrawn. Like, you can't name drop Thrawn to us, hardcore Star Wars fans without giving us Ezra, because that's the last time we saw them was together.
But even if it isn't about, even from more than just that, it's like you said, I feel like this season, so far, all the characters that they've thrown in, number one, they're either setting up, like you said, way too many spin-offs.
Exactly.
Or... they've been peppered in a way so far that they could be a one-off. Bringing in Bo-Katan made sense, absolutely, because of Mando. I think for Mando needing to know what Mandalore actually was, I can totally see him and the real Mandalorians working together, finding out about the Purge. I think that's relevant to this story.
Yeah, to this series.
Mando, to this series. Throwing in that little hint of Boba makes sense in that they already said they're going to do a Boba Fett spinoff. So, sure. But now, I just don't understand. The bringing in of Ahsoka, kind of sort of maybe understand why they did it, in that they obviously need to find some Force users for for Grogu. There needs to be some kind of Jedis brought into this story. But then throwing in that bit of Thrawn, that's the part that I'm just kind of
why would you do that to us? Why would you do that to us?
Not why would you do it to us? Why are you doing it at all?
Yeah.
It's not just about to us as the fans. I don't understand where they're going with it, because if it's for another spinoff, we don't. What are you doing? If it's we already got the little 3 episodes ago you did the hint of that spinoff. There aren't that many spinoffs coming this minute, and if it isn't about a spinoff, it's too much to throw into this show, because this show isn't about Thrawn. It isn't about Ezra. Yeah. It isn't about Sabine. It isn't about Rebels. It's about Mando. So that can't be it. And if it is, it's too much. They're trying to do too much in this. I'm just the Thrawn is what really has thrown me for a loop in this episode.
It's like the end of the first season. Moff Gideon comes out of the TIE fighter with the Darksaber. You and I are freaking out, and your mom, who hasn't seen Rebels or anything like that, is like, what? So go to this episode, and they say Grand Admiral Thrawn. You and I are like, what? We didn't even ask your mom if she even knew, because there was no reaction to her at all, because again, she's seen the movie, she's watched Mandalorian, and that's about it.
Yeah, but for us, it was a different kind of what this time. See, because that what was like, what? Like an excited what? Because number one, the Darksaber is relevant to Mandalorian.
And that's what I'm saying. Why throw Thrawn in there if it's not relevant to the show?
And it doesn't. And I don't understand how it could be relevant to the show, because unless for some reason he was behind the Purge.
Well, they're talking about. I've heard some people are theorizing maybe he's who Moff Gideon is working for.
I don't know.
Again, I like we said, if it's not relevant to this show, if it's relevant to the show, okay. But if they're trying to set up some other spinoff, nah. And the fact that it's Ahsoka looking for him, I feel like it is more of a spinoff thing rather than relevant to what's going on in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, and if it is that they're going to bring in that Thrawn is in some way related to what's going on now, then once again, for people who are not just the casual fan, it opens that whole thing as to, well, then what the heck happened to Ezra?
Yeah, and again, I enjoy, seeing these characters in, this season. Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, all Boba Fett, but it's to me, is kind of like when I watched Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's like they're trying so hard to set up future plans. Let's focus on, what's going on right now instead of, trying to get 3 steps ahead. Let's walk this path, and so you don't lose what's going on right now. Because the talk is now about Bo-Katan and Boba Fett and Ahsoka. The talk needs to be about Mando and the child, and that's where it's starting to come off the rails a little bit. And that was the thing about the first season. Like the first season, as far as I know, we saw those were all original characters. There was no character in season 1 that was like from other stuff, right?
I don't think so.
I mean, the first thing I remember is the Dark Saber that started talking about all the other stuff, and this is all. It feels like season 2 is all about characters from other stuff that has us not talking about actual Mando and the child.
I mean, I think that, yeah. I mean, that's like I said, I liked the episode. I definitely didn't love it because I do feel like it's only because I feel like it leaves me with so many more questions than I should have after it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
I mean, I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying the season. I totally am, because it does have those little sprinkles in there. But again, I feel like they're sprinkling these things in there to try to just set up spin-offs. When again, I feel like we could focus more on what's going on with Mando and the child, which we are, because the information he gets from these characters is about his journey to help Grogu and all that. So leading us to the end of the episode, Ahsoka tells Mando to go to the planet of Tython, where there is an old temple is what it is. Now, according to Wikipedia, Tython is a planet located in the galaxy's deep core and shrouded in myth. Some Jedi scholars made a case for Tython as a location of the Jedi Order's first temple, alongside other candidate worlds such as Octu, Coruscant, Jeddah, and Osius, a word I can't pronounce. So it's an ancient Jedi temple is really what it comes down to. And Ahsoka's saying that if you put, Grogu on the temple and he calls out with the Force, another Jedi might hear him and actually answer the call. I think, of course, Ahsoka, I wanted her to say, I am no Jedi. I wanted that line so bad, because it's become such a classic line with the character, and I wanted her to say that and be like, I can't train him. I am no Jedi, or something like that. But she obviously has her whole other mission, which I think is a real reason why she really didn't want to,
she didn't want the responsibility.
Yes, exactly, the responsibility. So she,
because I do think she feels largely responsible for what happened to Anakin.
Of course, she does too. But she has, again, she has a mission. She's looking for Thrawn, which I'm sure has some importance as well. And there's something else happening. We'll be like, hey, let some other Jedi, deal with this, who probably is better than I am. Plus, I got my plate full already. So, as I was watching some commentary last night and this morning, of course, the two big character questions that have come up is who got Grogu out of the temple, who saved him, all
Grogu.
I'm gonna mess that
Grogu.
up. I keep wanting to say Goku from Dragon Ball Z because it sounds so familiar, but Grogu, that's it. But the other one, of course, is when they get to this temple on Tython, who or what Jedi is going to answer the call? Would it be a character we know, or would it be a character we don't know if another Jedi enters the mix? Because, of course, now that you've got Ahsoka in there and Thrawn's been mentioned, the first person people have been talking about is Ezra. And I swear to God, if Ezra pops up and, again, they have him there and not showing him how he got out of the unknown regions first, I'm going to be upset about that. Is what it is. And then the other one that people have been talking about is the character from a game I am currently replaying, Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order, because at the end of that game, he was still around and we still don't know his actual fate. So those are two known Jedi that could possibly answer the call should Grogu need a Jedi to help him out. So do you think it's going to be, if a Jedi does answer the call, Lisa, do you think it'll be a known character like one of the ones I just mentioned, or a new Jedi?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I have no predictions now what they're going to do.
You're still thinking about the Thrawn.
Well, I was sure that they weren't going to do it bring real life Ahsoka, and so I just you know how I am. I can't make predictions.
Up until yesterday, I really had my deep desire that it was still going to be Ashley Eckstein. I had, people say, yeah, she's done voice acting, but she's done actual acting too. And especially after, you had Katie Sackhoff in there and actually, did the live action version of Bo-Katan, and she voiced Bo-Katan on the animated series. I thought there really was a hope that Ashley Eckstein could have shown up and been actual Ahsoka.
I mean, I think if they were to bring in a live action Ezra, I think it should be the guy who played him and who did his voice. I think he is appropriate age, and I think he would do a great job.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about with Katie Sackhoff, she was an established actress, and before she voiced Bo-Katan, so with that, it was like they were putting a celebrity voice in Clone Wars. Is kind of what it came down to. Whereas Ashley Eckstein, yes, she had been in some acting before, but she mainly did voice acting with Ahsoka and other things too. So I get the difference in between there, but I mean, Rosario Dawson, as we've talked about before.
No, I think she did a great job.
Great job, fine actress. I'm glad she was the one picked to do this. But again, Ashley Eckstein, I think would have been a fine choice as well. So anyway, all right. So that is Chapter 13, The Jedi, which I again go back to. I hate how they named it The Jedi because there was no Jedi in this episode. Either way, anything else you want to add before this? Anything we got 3 episodes left in the season. Favreau's directing 2 of them actually. For that, but anything else you want to add right now, Lisa? No, I think we covered it all pretty well, huh?
Yeah.
Of course. You sound so depressed.
I don't know.
Calm down, all right? We'll see how it all ends. I mean, I would love to see, I want to get another, season finale excitement like we did last season with the dark saber and something like that. But, I mean, I don't want to predict anything, and we'll just go from there. But anyway, time for you guys to fire back. Let us know what you think about Chapter 13, The Jedi, Ahsoka, the Thrawn Drop, anything, of course. Fire back on the Facebook group or dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com, and of course the Twitter group, guys. That is going to be it for us today. Go out, guys. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your life. And until next time, may the Force be with us all.